There are numerous red flags regarding the sudden death of Lindsey Graham that I want to discuss on this video. Before I started the MeidasTouch network, I was a civil litigator and I supervised hundreds of second autopsies performed by world-renowned forensic pathologists. And so I have an understanding of some of the questions that need to be asked. The purpose of this video is not to veer into the realm of conspiracy. It is to stick with the facts and to arm you with the knowledge and to arm others with the knowledge and to provide the questions that need to be answered. So let's just break this down. Here's how it's being described on state regime media Fox. An initial examination from the D.C. Medical Examiner's Office has determined that Senator Lindsey Graham died as a result of an aortic dissection due to the arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease that he had. In layman's terms, this means a tear in the aorta caused by hardening and narrowing of arteries as a result of underlying cardiovascular disease. The DC Medical Examiner's Office put out the following statement. The death certificate will be pending until all the toxicological and microscopic testing are finalized, and at that point, the death certificate will be updated to reflect the cause of death and appropriately classify the manner of death. Now, before Lindsey Graham passed away, he had told individuals that he was feeling sick. He actually made a comment, "I can't die now. I still need to do the Russia sanctions." You'll recall that on Friday, Lindsey Graham was in Ukraine. He held a press conference there before heading back to the United States. The last person he seemed to have spoken with was Donald Trump. Donald Trump said he spoke with Lindsey Graham, who seemed tired. And here's more of what we're learning as it's being reported from another state regime source, Axios. But then I want to get into, what I see as some of these red flags as well. So Senator Lindsey Graham held one final phone call with Donald Trump before his death, discussing Ukraine, a Russia sanctions bill, and possible new U.S. strikes on Iran. After the call, Graham told someone he wasn't feeling well, but planned to seek medical attention after his scheduled Sunday TV appearance. He reportedly joked, "I can't die now. I still need to do the Russia sanctions, get Iran sorted out, and do Israeli-Saudi normalization." He died several hours later. And then, as you know, Lindsey Graham's office put out the statement as follows. On the evening of Saturday, July 11th, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham passed away from a brief and sudden illness. Senator Graham's family appreciates prayers at this time and asks for privacy during this incredible, difficult period. Donald Trump put out the statement that said, Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the greatest people and senators I have ever known, is dead. He was always working and was a true American patriot. Lindsey will be greatly missed. Details and arrangements to follow. So sad. Donald J. Trump. He then also posted a message that I'm ordering all American flags through the United States to be lowered to half-mast, although that's the terminology for Navy, until Saturday evening at 6 p.m. God bless you, Lindsey. Donald J. Trump. Now, FBI Director Kash Patel put out a statement saying that the FBI is assisting local authorities and has made every necessary resource available. Chad Pergram explains from colleague Jake Gibson, FBI agents are assisting MPD officers with the normal process at Senator Graham's house. There is no indication of foul play at this point, according to two federal law enforcement sources. MPD is the lead law enforcement agency at this point. Now, I want to highlight the fact that heart attacks in general have very frequently been given as the cause for Russian assassination attempts. The CIA developed its own weapon that could induce a heart attack, and foreign intelligence agencies across the world have access to this type of technology. And again, I'm not saying that this is what happened here. I want to arm you with some data points, though, because what you would need to do is an extensive toxicology exam, and you'd probably even need to bring in an expert botanist and someone who understands some of the extracts of different types of plants to be able to try to trace potential things that could or could not be in the bloodstream that may ultimately induce the heart attack, that may induce. This is an article from July 7th of 2026, which is notable, right? Because we're talking about, just last week or so. The CIA's heart attack gun, a Cold War weapon for targeted assassinations. And it talks about how there was a committee in the 1970s led by Senator Frank Church. It was the Church Committee. And one of the things that they described was a weapon. This is real. The CIA had developed and other intelligence agencies developed a weapon that resembled a Colt M1911 1911 pistol with a scope, but it didn't fire the .45 caliber bullets. Instead, it fired a frozen pellet of saxitoxin, a poisonous substance derived from shellfish that consume toxic algae blooms. The pellets could be silently fired up to 100 meters away. It would enter the body through a pinprick entry wound. The poison would then melt. Within 10 minutes, the victim would be dead. Again, a poison dart the width of a human hair and a quarter of an inch long that was fired from this, and it would induce a heart attack. It was referred to in the CIA as the heart attack gun. Also, the KGB, the Soviet Union, they developed their own version. Bohdan Stashinsky, one of the KGB's hired guns, was known to have murdered two Ukrainian anti-Soviet activists, Lev Rebet and Stepan Bandera, in the 1950s with a gun that sprayed cyanide in their face, causing death within minutes. Their causes of death both looked like heart attacks. The CIA learned their true cause of death when Stashinsky eventually defected to the West in 1961, but there are more recent examples. In 2018, there were between 12 and 18 Russian oligarchs and Russian officials who died under very mysterious circumstances. And you take the story of a guy by the name of, and a lot of them died in the UK. You take the story of Alexander Podplechny, and he was, his body was found in November of 2012, an exiled Russian banker in the UK in fetal position, pale, cold, displaying very faint signs of life. He was cooperating against the Soviet Union, against Russia, with the UK in 2010. Initial toxicology tests on Podplechny's body revealed nothing suspicious, and police said they had no evidence of foul play. Again, that's what we're hearing with Lindsey Graham, no evidence of foul play. But later tests performed by an expert botanist at Kew Gardens suggested the presence of a rare and deadly plant toxin within the stomach. Gelsemium, a flowering plant native to China and Southeast Asia, known as heartbreak grass because its leaves, if swallowed, cause cardiac arrest. Further tests of the compound found in Podplechny could not definitively identify whether it was gelsemium, and an inquest into the death was suspended last year, pending more tests. So there was just a lot of red flags, though. Is that what happened, or was this very similar to what we currently believe happened with Lindsey Graham? Let's also not forget this article from 2022 from The Atlantic, Sudden Russian Death Syndrome. It's not a great time to be an oligarch who's unenthusiastic about Putin's war in Ukraine. Here's a list of people you should not currently want to be: a Russian sausage tycoon, a Russian gas industry executive, the editor-in-chief of a Russian tabloid, a Russian shipyard director, the head of a Russian ski resort, a Russian aviation official, a Russian rail magnate. Anyone answering to such description probably ought not stand near open windows in almost any country. And it talks about how there have been these dozens of suspicious and mysterious deaths across the world. And they also include suspected poisonings and suspicious heart attacks with the kind of death grass, the heartbreak grass that I noted before. Before continuing, one quick PSA for the Meidas Mighty when it comes to Medicare. Most Medicare agents push Medicare Advantage plans even when they're not right for you because they make more money doing it. That's why we strongly recommend you do what thousands in our audience have already done. Speak with Chapter, please. They don't just share the amazing benefits of Medicare Advantage. They explain the pros and cons of all your Medicare options. Original Medicare, Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage, and Part D. Chapter supports you in comparing every plan against your specific healthcare needs because they want to ensure you have the best coverage for you. One Chapter member, Jill, said her advisor presented options she didn't even see on the Medicare.gov website. And in many cases, Chapter saves people over $1,100 a year by getting them on the right plan. So if you're on Medicare or will be soon, dial 82 Medicare and get honest advice from Chapter. That's 82 Medicare. It's free and quick. They can review your options in under 20 minutes. If you're on the right plan already, they'll tell you. If you're not, they can help you save thousands the way they have with thousands of members of the Meidas Mighty. Remember within the Epstein files, in one of those files, June 24th, 2018, Jeffrey Epstein is sending a message to Jörgen Thorban, and I'll read to you what he says. He says, Churkin was great. He understood Trump after our conversations. Again, this is June 24th, 2018. It's not complex. He must be seen to get something. It's that simple. And then Epstein is writing to Thorban Jaglin and saying, I think you might suggest to Putin that Lavrov, Sergei Lavrov, can get insight talking to me. Vitaly Churkin used to do that, but he died, ? Now, Churkin died February 2017 at age 64. He was the Russian ambassador to the United Nations. And he died in New York under very mysterious circumstances of a heart attack with kind of circumstances very similar to what we're hearing about with Lindsey Graham. Now, RT, Russian TV, posted this video of Lindsey Graham earlier in the day. Lindsey Graham's ecstatic about plan to put U.S. tariffs on Russian oil before sudden death. Maybe too ecstatic, Russia TV says. Here, play this clip.
Hello, Senator.
Buddy, how you doing?
How you doing? Is there a foreign war you don't support?
I support wars that make America safer.
Thank you, sir.
Now, when Lindsey Graham was in Ukraine, he actually looked pretty decent. I mean, that's not to suggest that that condition couldn't rapidly deteriorate. But remember, here's what he looked like on Friday when he was in Ukraine, so you can see for yourself. Now, as Megan Mobbs explains, regarding Senator Graham's tragic passing of cardiac arrest, that's not an adequate answer. Cardiac arrest tells us how his life ended. It does not tell us why his heart stopped. Given the threat environment, the identities of America's adversaries, and Senator Graham's role, there could be lots of issues raised here. Igor Suska says, amid speculation that could have been Russia or somebody else assassinated Lindsey Graham by using a sophisticated biochemical agent designed to mimic a natural heart attack that uses the body's natural metabolic process to destroy the evidence. Modern forensic methods will likely identify it. The key is whether the circumstances warrant forensic pathology. Without any inside information, I believe so. Even if a toxic substance is engineered to break down almost instantly in the bloodstream, it doesn't just cease to exist. The body's liver and cellular enzymes break the chemical down into metabolite secondary compounds. The primary toxin may have a half-life of only minutes or hours, but its specific metabolic fingerprints often remain stable in biological symptoms for much longer. Now, we know that the Trump regime is incompetent and mishandles everything, but you would actually want to do not just a full tox screening, but you would want the FBI or the intelligence community to engage in thorough tests, to bring in renowned botanists and people who understand the very types of chemicals that the CIA had worked on, that the KGB had worked on, in order to try to further assess what's going on or what could be going on. Now, let's talk about the radio traffic. The evening that Lindsey Graham died. 8:27 p.m., Engine 7 and Medic 7 were dispatched to Graham's home on South Capitol Street Southeast. At 8:32, Engine 7 requested a call back to get someone inside to open the locked door. 8:33, dispatcher reported the caller said she was not in the home and the door is unlocked. 8:34, dispatcher reported that the caller asked if they knocked on the door, believing the patient would answer. Notice the term patient, yes. Dispatcher said the caller is coming from Baltimore. The dispatcher asked Engine 7 if they would like a ladder truck company to force entry and asked about the need for DC police. Engine 7 said they will need police, but they can handle forced entry into the home. And you may have seen the TMZ photos that have surfaced recently of Lindsey Graham's body leaving. But I want to know more about this call from Baltimore. This female who called, what was the relationship with Lindsey Graham? Was she being told by him that he didn't feel good? Was his last call actually with Donald Trump? And, it's notable. I mean, Lindsey Graham posted about 6 days ago, at least they used a good photo of me. Judge me by my enemies, referring to the Iranian mortars at Ayatollah Khamenei's funeral, who were having images and visuals of Lindsey Graham being a target of Iran. Could he be a target of Russia? Could he be a target of other intelligence agencies, whether it's the Mossad or otherwise? Could he be, or is this 71-year-old guy has this aortic condition and it was building up slowly but surely? We believe he drank heavily and didn't seem to necessarily have the most healthy, habits out there. Donald Trump said that he spoke to Lindsey Graham minutes before Graham's death. This is what Donald Trump had to say. Play this clip right here.
And just to make that point, authorities were called to his home responding to initial reports of a cardiac arrest. Again, his office saying a brief and sudden illness. Do you have any more details?
I would think it would be that, because when I spoke to him, it could have been, minutes before, based on, based on the fact that I heard about the call, whatever time that was. So it was shortly before. But it had to be something like that, because he was, other than being tired, he was fine. And so it had to be something like that would just be a quick end. And maybe that's not the worst way to go. He had some fine moments.
One of the things that I think, also raised questions on a number of levels as well, is that after Lindsey Graham's death, Mitch McConnell, 84 years old, Lindsey Graham, 71 years old, Mitch McConnell posted a proof of life photo holding a newspaper from yesterday, I guess to try to prove that, that this was a fresh photo, but was also raising red flags that why would you not do a video, right? Okay, you did a photo, but do a video so we can hear how you sound and, are you able to put words together or, so to me, one of the big red flags there, but also as you read this statement that, appears to be riddled with lies and, we appreciate it. We'd love to get back to the Senate, but the doctors tell me I need to stay here. It's just fascinating that there's no mention at all about Lindsey Graham, which is also suspicious. If you were to be doing this the day after Lindsey Graham died and you're friends with Lindsey Graham and you want to show your own proof of life, wouldn't you mention Lindsey Graham in the statement somewhere there? And then I'll just say this as well. Lindsey Graham's death has now been used by Donald Trump and MAGA to pursue their to further pursue their fascist ends. All right, we got to do ground invasions in Iran, and we've got to blow up Iran to honor Lindsey Graham. We got to pass the Voter Suppression Act to honor Lindsey Graham. We've got to rally around Trump's fascist agenda. That's what Lindsey would want. Lindsey would want us to do these things. So with all of this, well, it should be noted too that Bill Pulte is running the ODNI, the Office for the Director of National Intelligence, that the Trump regime has gutted. Most of our top intelligence people have been pushed out or silenced at this point as well. And, you know, you put all of this together, and those are the questions that I think, again, need to be asked. It is not wild fantasy, crazy talk to say, could a foreign intelligence agency or domestic, foreign or domestic or anybody, you know, intelligence agency, utilize weapons that produce an outcome that we know to be the outcome? What are the aims? What are the objectives? Is it, you know, and to raise those questions. And I think just slapping it down as that's crazy talk, that's absurd. Again, I want to be very, very careful in the reporting and not to say this is what definitely happened. I don't know. And I don't want to be reckless and irresponsible just for throwing things out. But I think it is important to ask those questions, and that's what we'll keep on looking at here. And then if ultimately all the boxes are checked, and we'll at least have a thorough answer, you know. But let me know what you think in the comments. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. Thanks for watching, everybody. New Meidas merch. Head to store.MeidasTouch.com today and get yourself the best pro-democracy gear and show your support. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.